In the heart of the modern church, something crucial is being overlooked, a sense of mystery, reverence, and sacred awe. What if I told you that the Western liturgies, the very Mass we attend every Sunday, are losing their connection to the divine mystery? Pope Leo XIV himself has spoken boldly on this matter, asserting that the Roman rite is at risk of being consumed by the culture of consumerism, practicality, and convenience. This is a matter that could change everything about how we experience the Holy Mass. Why has this shift happened? What exactly is being lost, and more importantly, can it be recovered? Is the spiritual heart of our worship being diminished in the name of accessibility? What do Eastern liturgies have that we no longer seem to have in the West? Could the ancient rituals of the East be the key to restoring the awe and mystery we've lost? In this video, we're going to uncover the truth behind Pope Leo XIV's vision for the liturgy. We'll explore why he believes the Western Church is in desperate need of rediscovering the depth of mystery in its rituals, and how Eastern liturgies can teach us to reconnect with that divine mystery. You'll also understand why Pope Leo XIV emphasizes the preservation of tradition over convenience, something that may very well transform your entire understanding of the Mass. Stay with me as we dig deep into this topic, and by the end, you'll realize why our liturgies need to reflect the majesty of God, not the demands of the modern world. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. What are your experiences with liturgy, and how do you think we can preserve this sacred tradition? Like and subscribe if you believe that liturgy should be about mystery, reverence, and awe. Let's rediscover the sacred together. Pope Leo XIV and the importance of Mysterium in the liturgy. In the beginning, let us reflect upon the depth of the mystery of God, a mystery so vast and so profound that no human mind can fully grasp its entirety. Pope Leo XIV, in his insightful reflection on the liturgy, calls us to rediscover this very mystery, something that has begun to fade from our modern worship, much like a once vibrant painting that loses its color over time. He speaks with urgency, pointing to the loss of this sacred dimension in the Western liturgies, and calling for a return to the awe and reverence found in the Eastern liturgies. The importance of Mysterium, the divine mystery, is not just a theological concept. It is an experience, an encounter with the divine that transcends mere intellectual understanding and touches the deepest parts of our soul. For centuries, the Church's liturgies have been the sacred interface between humanity and God. Yet, in our pursuit of making things more accessible and understandable, we have stripped away the mystery that once enveloped the worship of the faithful. The rituals, the incense, the chanting, and even the silence were once more than symbols. They were the very means through which we encountered the presence of the Almighty. These elements spoke to our senses, and more importantly, to our hearts. They were designed to carry us into the mysteries of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. The call for the restoration of mystery is not a rejection of modernity, nor a blind plea for a return to an outdated past. Rather, it is an invitation to reconnect with the divine truths that have stood the test of time. Pope Leo XIV, in his wisdom, sees that we in the West have been losing this connection, drowning in the tide of consumerism and convenience. The Western liturgy has been reduced to something that caters to human comfort and the pursuit of efficiency, rather than to the awe-inspiring, life-altering presence of God. Pope Leo XIV urges us to return to the sacred, to embrace the mysterium that Eastern liturgies have preserved. In the Eastern rites, there is no rush, no hurry to finish, no desire to simplify the divine encounter. The liturgy is a journey into the heavens, where the faithful are transported to a reality beyond this world. The incense rises, the bells toll, and the chanting carries the soul upwards beyond the mundane. This is the mystery that Pope Leo XIV calls us to recover. Imagine stepping into a church where every movement, every prayer, and every song is not just a ritual, but a profound invitation to engage with the divine. It is a call to step beyond our limited understanding and enter the realm of God's infinite majesty. This is the power of Mysterium. It is not about intellectual clarity. It is about the spiritual experience of being in the presence of the Creator, of feeling His majesty and love fill the space around you. Consider the example of the divine liturgy in the Eastern Church, whether it's the Orthodox or Eastern Catholic traditions. The faithful there don't just go through the motions, they engage with every sense, every action, and every word. The silence, the chanting, the intricate rituals, all of these are designed not only to teach, but to immerse the worshipper in the mystery of salvation. The faithful are not just observers. They are participants in something far greater than themselves, an act of union with God. Now, think about the liturgies in the West, especially in the wake of reforms. We have reduced the Mass to a series of actions, often stripped of the very mystery that once made them sacred. The Mass, once a transformative encounter with the divine, has become something that feels rushed, predictable, and sometimes even mechanical. Where is the awe? Where is the mystery that once left the faithful trembling in the presence of God? Pope Leo XIV does not call for a blind return to the past, but for a rediscovery of what was once sacred. We are not merely talking about getting back to old practices. We are talking about reclaiming the mystery that was lost along the way. In rediscovering this mysterium, the liturgy once again becomes a vehicle for spiritual transformation. It is through the mystery that we encounter the divine, and it is through the divine encounter that we are healed, restored, and made whole. The loss of mystery in our liturgies is not just a loss of tradition, it is a loss of the profound spiritual experience that can only come from engaging with the divine in a deeply sacred way. Without the mystery, worship becomes a ritual without power, an event that feels disconnected from the life-changing truth of God's love. In reclaiming the mystery, we open ourselves to a deeper connection with the divine, allowing the liturgy to once again be a place where heaven and earth meet, where our souls are lifted up in worship, and where we are transformed by the presence of God. This mysterium is not just an abstract concept, it is a vital part of our spiritual lives. Just as the beauty of a painting moves the heart, or a piece of music stirs the soul, the liturgy is meant to move us into the presence of God. It is not meant to be understood in a rational sense, but to be experienced in a way that touches the deepest parts of our being. This is the call Pope Leo XIV makes to us, to embrace the mystery, to allow it to transform us, and to rediscover the awe and reverence that belong to the worship of God. As we move forward, it is crucial for us to ask, what is the purpose of our liturgies? Are they simply events to be observed, or are they opportunities to encounter the living God? In the silence, the prayers, the gestures, and the music, do we allow ourselves to enter into the mysterium, that sacred mystery that is beyond comprehension but full of transformative power? If we do, we will not just be participating in a ritual. We will be encountering God Himself, allowing Him to shape and heal our souls. In the next part of this video, we will explore how Pope Leo XIV's call to preserve the ancient traditions of the liturgy can help us rediscover that lost mystery. What can we learn from the Eastern liturgies, and how can we apply those lessons to our own Western practices? Let's dive deeper into the importance of maintaining the sacred, the ancient, and the mysterious in our worship, so that we can fully engage with the divine in ways that renew and transform us. Pope Leo XIV's critique of Western liturgies, mistakes and lessons. The worship of God, the supreme creator, is not merely a ritual we follow out of habit. It is an encounter, a deeply transformative experience meant to elevate the soul, to lead us into the holy presence of God. Pope Leo XIV's critique of modern Western liturgies serves as a sobering wake-up call for us all, urging us to re-examine how we worship, how we approach the sacred, and how we allow consumerism, convenience, and pragmatism to dilute the awe that should fill our hearts during Mass. This reflection is not an attack on the faithful, but rather a loving challenge to restore the liturgy to its true purpose, the adoration of the divine in spirit and in truth. Pope Leo XIV expresses his concern that the Western liturgies have been stripped of their divine mystery. What was once an awe-inspiring, transcendent encounter with God has been turned into something practical, something geared toward human comfort rather than divine awe. The liturgy has become, in many ways, an offering that is accessible to the masses, not in the sense of welcoming the people into a profound spiritual mystery, but in the sense of accommodating them, making everything easier, shorter, simpler. The result? We have lost the very heart of what makes the liturgy sacred. The mistake, Pope Leo XIV warns, is that we have started to view the liturgy as something we need to fit into our busy schedules. We have become fixated on convenience, efficiency, and practicality, losing sight of the fact that the Mass is not about us. It is about God. And when we make it about ourselves, when we demand shorter services, fewer rituals, or more simplified forms of worship, we fail to engage in the mystery that the liturgy is meant to reveal. Consider this. How many of us have ever sat through Mass, looking at our watches, waiting for it to be over, eager to get to lunch, to the next task, to the next distraction? It is a tragic reality that many of us attend Mass not with reverence and awe, but with a sense of duty or habit, merely going through the motions. What happened to the Mass that filled hearts with wonder, that made the soul tremble before the glory of God? The Mass that left people silent, reflective, moved by the magnitude of the Eucharist, where they weren't just hearing prayers, but encountering the living Christ. Pope Leo XIV's critique of the Western liturgies is rooted in the idea that the sacred should never be compromised for the sake of convenience. In the Eastern liturgies, the sacred remains untouched by the demands of time or practicality. The faithful in the Eastern churches are not looking at the clock. They are caught up in the mystery unfolding before them. They do not need to be entertained by the liturgy because the liturgy is the encounter. Every chant, every incense, every prayer is a doorway into the divine presence. They are not rushing to finish. They are waiting in reverence to meet the one who is beyond all understanding. This lesson is vital for the Church in the West. We have become so accustomed to the idea that everything must be fast, efficient, and user-friendly that we have forgotten the value of the sacred. We have forgotten that mystery is not a burden but a gift that draws us closer to God, deepens our faith, and opens our eyes to the wonders of heaven. To encounter the mystery of God is to allow ourselves to be humbled, to be awed, to be transformed. It is in this mystery that we experience healing, grace, and divine love. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you attended Mass and truly felt that sense of awe? When was the last time you allowed the liturgy to be more than just a set of words and gestures, but an invitation to enter the mystery of God? This is what Pope Leo XIV is calling us to rediscover. It is not enough to simply get through Mass. We must enter into it, allowing the liturgy to open our hearts to God's majesty, His mystery, His love. The mistake we often make is assuming that shorter, simpler, more accessible liturgies are more in line with the needs of modern people. But what if the opposite is true? What if the solution is not to simplify the Mass, but to restore it to its original richness and depth? What if, instead of stripping away the beauty and the awe, we embraced it fully, allowing ourselves to be drawn into the mystery, no matter how much time it takes or how complicated it seems? The great lesson in Pope Leo XIV's critique is that we must not let practicality dictate how we worship God. The Mass is not a service to be streamlined or condensed for the sake of convenience. It is a sacred encounter that transcends time and space, a moment when heaven touches earth. To reduce it to something manageable, something efficient, is to lose the very essence of what makes it divine. But how do we restore this mystery? How do we bring back the awe, the reverence, and the sacredness that have been lost? It begins by embracing the fullness of the liturgy, by resisting the urge to simplify or modernize it in ways that remove its sacred mystery. We must return to the traditions that once filled our hearts with wonder, the ancient rituals, the sacred chants, the beautiful, timeless prayers that remind us that we are in the presence of God Himself. It is also crucial that we understand that the sacred is not about us, it is about God. It is not about what makes us feel comfortable or entertained. It is about offering our hearts, our minds, and our lives to God in worship. When we make the liturgy about us, when we treat it like a service to be consumed, we miss the point entirely. The liturgy is a gift, an invitation to experience God's presence in a way that is profound, mysterious, and life-changing. The beauty of the liturgy is that it is not something we can fully comprehend or control. It is Mysterium, a mystery that we enter into, not to understand fully, but to experience deeply. And in that experience, we are healed, transformed, and brought closer to God. When we allow the mystery to unfold before us, we find ourselves not just observing, but participating in something far greater than ourselves. Pope Leo XIV's critique is not a call for rejection of the modern world, but a reminder that, in our quest for efficiency and practicality, we must not lose the sacred. We must not let consumerism, convenience, or modernity strip away the mystery that has the power to heal and transform us. The liturgy is meant to be a doorway to heaven, not a quick stop on our way to the next task. Let us therefore approach it with reverence, with awe, and with a deep desire to encounter the divine in all of His mystery. As we move forward, let us ask ourselves, how can we reclaim the awe and mystery in our worship? How can we resist the urge to simplify, to reduce, to streamline, and instead allow the liturgy to open our hearts to the divine? These are the questions that Pope Leo XIV's critique urges us to reflect on, and in doing so, we can begin to restore the liturgy to its rightful place as the sacred encounter with God that it was always meant to be. Let us not settle for convenience. Let us return to the mystery. The importance of rediscovering ancient traditions. In the world we live in today, we are constantly bombarded with the pressures of modernity. Speed, efficiency, and practicality are our guiding principles. We see this in nearly every aspect of life, whether it's the fast food industry, the rapid pace of technological advancements, or even in the way we approach worship. Pope Leo XIV, however, calls us to pause and reflect on the sacredness of tradition, particularly in our liturgical practices. He urges us to rediscover the ancient traditions that have shaped the Church for centuries, not as a means of clinging to the past, but as a way of reconnecting with the deep, transformative mysteries of our faith. In a time when so much seems to change, these traditions remain a bridge to the divine, a pathway to encountering God in a way that is both timeless and profound. The importance of preserving ancient traditions in the liturgy cannot be overstated. These practices are not mere rituals or customs. They are the living legacy of the Church's journey through history, passed down from one generation to the next. They carry with them the wisdom of the saints, the teachings of the apostles, and the profound experiences of the early Christians who first encountered the risen Christ in the breaking of the bread. By neglecting these traditions, we risk severing ourselves from the roots of our faith, from the very foundation upon which the Church was built. Imagine a tree that has stood for hundreds of years, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching toward the heavens. Now imagine that tree being uprooted, its roots exposed and severed. The tree may continue to stand for a time, but without its roots, it loses its strength, its nourishment, and its connection to the earth that sustains it. The same can be said of the Church if we lose sight of its ancient traditions. Without these roots, our faith becomes disconnected, shallow, and vulnerable to the winds of change that blow through the modern world. Pope Leo XIV calls for a return to these ancient traditions, not out of a desire to preserve the past for the sake of nostalgia, but because they are essential for the spiritual health of the Church today. These traditions are not outdated or irrelevant. They are living, breathing practices that help us encounter God in a deeper and more meaningful way. They remind us that worship is not about us, but about God. They remind us that we are not just participants in a ritual. We are standing in the presence of the Almighty, offering ourselves to Him in the same way that countless generations before us have done. The Eucharist, the heart of the Christian liturgy, is a prime example of this. When we celebrate the Mass, we are not simply recalling an event from the past. We are entering into the very mystery of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. The ancient liturgies, with their rich symbolism, their solemn prayers, and their sacred rituals, draw us into that mystery in a way that is both powerful and transformative. When we strip away these elements in the name of convenience or accessibility, we risk losing the very essence of what makes the Eucharist so profound. This is where the lesson from Pope Leo XIV's message becomes clear. The ancient traditions of the liturgy are not obstacles to progress, but rather gateways to a deeper, more authentic encounter with God. When we take the time to preserve these traditions, to engage with them fully, we are opening ourselves up to a profound spiritual experience. We are not simply going through the motions, we are entering into the very heart of our faith. Consider, for example, the practice of silence in the liturgy. In many modern masses, silence is often replaced with music or spoken words, as if we are afraid of being left with our own thoughts. But silence in the liturgy is not an absence. It is a space where God can speak to us. In the stillness, we are invited to reflect on the mysteries of our faith, to open our hearts to God, and to receive His grace in a way that words cannot express. The ancient liturgies understood the power of silence, and Pope Leo XIV calls us to rediscover this practice in our own worship. Another example is the use of incense. In the ancient liturgies, incense was not simply a fragrant offering. It was a symbol of the prayers of the faithful rising up to God. It was a way of physically representing the spiritual act of offering ourselves to God. Today, incense is often seen as unnecessary or outdated, but its use in the liturgy serves as a powerful reminder that our worship is not just a physical act. It is a spiritual offering that ascends to the heavens. By rediscovering these ancient practices, we reconnect with the deeper spiritual truths that they convey. But rediscovering ancient traditions is not just about the rituals. It is about a mindset, a way of approaching the sacred. It is about recognizing that worship is not meant to be convenient, quick, or easily digestible. It is meant to be a profound encounter with the divine, one that requires us to slow down, to reflect, and to open our hearts to God. In a world that values speed and efficiency, this can feel like a radical idea, but it is also the very essence of what makes the liturgy sacred. When we take the time to engage fully with the ancient traditions of the Church, we are not only honoring the past, we are enriching our own spiritual lives and deepening our relationship with God. Pope Leo XIV's call to preserve ancient traditions is not a call for stagnation. It is a call for renewal, a renewal that begins with a return to the sacred, to the timeless practices that have nourished the Church for centuries. These traditions are not irrelevant in the modern world. They are more necessary than ever. In a world that is increasingly fragmented and distracted, we need these ancient practices to help ground us, to remind us of the sacred, and to draw us into a deeper relationship with God. In conclusion, the lesson we learn from Pope Leo XIV is that the ancient traditions of the Church are not merely historical relics. They are vital to the life of the Church today. They are the roots that connect us to the rich history of our faith and the spiritual practices that help us encounter the divine. By rediscovering and preserving these traditions, we are not just honoring the past. We are ensuring that future generations will have the opportunity to encounter God in the same profound way that we have. Let us embrace these traditions with open hearts, allowing them to transform us and draw us closer to the mystery of God's love. Let us not forget that the mystery of the liturgy is not something to be simplified or reduced, but something to be cherished, preserved, and lived with awe and reverence. As we come to the end of this reflection, let us pause for a moment and consider the power of the sacred rituals we've discussed, the profound traditions that have carried the faithful through centuries, connecting us not only to each other, but to the eternal mystery of God Himself. In our modern world, where everything moves at a breakneck pace, and convenience seems to rule every decision we make, the invitation to rediscover the ancient practices of our faith is not just a call to return to something old, but a call to experience something new, something life-altering. We live in a time when distractions pull at us from every direction, when the noise of the world can drown out the still, small voice of God. The liturgy, the sacred Mass, is meant to be our refuge, our meeting place with the divine. Yet how often do we rush through it, thinking of the next task, the next appointment, the next to-do on our list? Pope Leo XIV has challenged us to stop, to reflect, and to enter fully into the mystery of God's love through our liturgical practices. It is through these practices that we are not only connected to the history of our faith, but invited to experience God's presence in a profound and transformative way. When we embrace the ancient traditions of the Church, whether it's through the use of incense, the chanting of prayers, the reverent silence, we are not merely going through the motions, we are participating in something eternal. These traditions are not just symbolic actions, they are pathways to God, opportunities to allow His grace to fill us and heal us. It is in the quiet moments, in the beauty of the sacred rites, that we encounter the living God in a way that no amount of busyness or modern distraction can replicate. So, as we reflect on Pope Leo XIV's call to rediscover these traditions, let us ask ourselves, what are we truly seeking in our liturgies? Are we simply looking for a quick and efficient service, or are we longing for a deeper encounter with the divine? Are we content with a liturgy that caters to our need for convenience? Or are we open to the possibility that true worship may require us to step out of our comfort zones, to embrace mystery, and to surrender to the awe of God's presence? The sacred liturgy is not a service we consume. It is a divine gift that transforms us. Every prayer, every gesture, every symbol points us toward the mystery of salvation. And every time we participate in it, we are drawn closer to God's love. By rediscovering the ancient liturgical traditions, we are not just honoring the past, we are engaging with the very heart of our faith, connecting with the timeless truth of God's Word and His eternal presence. If you've felt the power of this message, if you've experienced even a glimpse of the deep spiritual beauty that these traditions offer, then I invite you to join me in this journey of rediscovery. This is not just about liturgy, it's about allowing our hearts to be transformed, allowing God's presence to permeate every moment of our lives. It's about remembering that worship is not about us. It is about offering our hearts to God in reverence, in awe, and in love. If this video has touched your soul, if it has helped you find a little light in the midst of darkness, then I ask you to consider supporting this channel so we can continue to share the message of God's love and grace. Your support, whether in a like, a share, or a comment, means more than words can express. It is your way of saying, yes, this matters. It is your way of helping to spread this message of faith, hope, and love to others who need to hear it. Every small action you take, whether it's sharing this video with a friend, leaving a thoughtful comment, or simply liking it, helps us reach more people with the message of God's eternal truth. It is not just about supporting a channel, it's about supporting a community of believers who are seeking, together, to walk more closely with God. If you feel that the message of this video has offered you something precious, something worth holding on to, then I humbly invite you to consider contributing in whatever way you feel led. Every bit of support, whether large or small, makes a difference and helps us continue this mission of spreading the light of God's word in the world. Thank you, with all my heart, for being a part of this journey. Thank you for your presence, for your comments, and for your prayers. Together, we can rediscover the mystery, the beauty, and the profound love of God that is waiting for us in the liturgy. As we continue to walk this path, may we always remember that the liturgy is not just an action. It is an encounter with the living God, a chance to be transformed, healed, and made whole. May our hearts be ever open to the mystery, and may we find ourselves continually drawn closer to the one who loves us beyond measure. Let us share this journey with others, and may God bless each and every one of you abundantly.